Hello Internet, Bardic Monk here, and today we're taking a look at how to make your own cards for any game that you're currently using, for any custom content for board games that you want to actually bring to the table. That's what we're going to be doing today. This should be the shortest and final version of this video. I've done this twice before and showcase stuff. We're not showcasing anything this time, and we're going to cut straight into how I've been doing this. I've made more than 200 cards, maybe 300 at this point, and I've made enough mistakes that I think I can finally give you the final version with all the little tips and tricks of how I'm doing all this. So let's see how this goes. First things first, what supplies are you going to need? First thing I want to show you is I think you should have a safe workspace, so if you don't want to destroy your tables, I would recommend that you have one of these, just a green cutting mat, and or blue, whatever. As long as you have a cutting mat, that should work. And the actual supplies that you're going to need are a paper cutter. You're going to need a paper cutter for this project to actually work. I've been using the Fiskars paper cutter. My knife is missing. I don't know where it went. Oh, here's a knife. I've been using this for flattening paper to the wax and so on. You'll see that in a little bit, but I would recommend having at least something flat and something to cut with for your paper. And the thing that you want here, at least if you have a folding one, is a way to lock this board so it doesn't bend. But here, that was the first thing that we need, some sort of thing to actually cut the paper that we're going to be using. And next, you're going to want the actual cards that you printed out. I have the fronts and backs printed out here, no problem. You're going to need double-sided sticky sheet paper, which is cut to 10.5 by 8 inches wide. The ones that I buy are 12 inches by 12 inches, and I just pre-cut them before working on this project. We're going to need some scissors. I would recommend non-stick scissors, but these are just the ones I really like. So if you end up using just regular scissors for this project, if you can buy a bottle of Simple Green, I've been using that to just soak the scissors blades into, and then I'll just wipe it off like 10 minutes later. And it kind of like cleans up the whole thing. So this is part of, I guess, the things to do. Either non-stick scissors or scissors and Simple Green, or some way to clean off the blades, because after a few cuts with this into the sticky paper, you're just going to have gunked up scissors. And last, we're going to need just parchment paper. This I got at the dollar store. There's no like quality that's needed here so long as it doesn't stick to the paper. That's the reason why we're doing this. We're going to be peeling this sheet off and then putting this as like a temporary like guard, so that way we're going to have just a small amount of space to stick the paper to, so we can test our aim, I guess, making sure that everything is like squared off before we actually commit to sticking one side of the paper to the other. And last but not least, I have the Kadomaru Pro, which is a corner rounder that you can use on anything that you stick here. So we have these small, medium, and large cuts. So if we wanted the large cut, it would be like this. It's rounded. We get the medium one, that, and then the small one, which is the one that we're going to be using, looks like this. And those are the three roundnesses, large, medium, and small. And the small one is the one that's closest to an actual card that you would find made by a company. So, and I know I said last but not least, but we're going to need a pen or a writing implement of some sort. And I'm using a pen because what I am marking is not going to be erased. It's going to be cut off and then thrown away. That should be it. Okay, so that's all the prep work. I'm going to clear this out and then go over the steps on how to get your prints ready for sticking together. I'm not going over how to size these, so long as you have a print sheet from somebody who made it already. You can just cut them out however you need to. The trick to this video is just aligning the two sheets so that they're going to stick together. That's pretty much it. Alright, so 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what we're going to be doing right now is splitting the fronts from the backs, so that way we have two very distinct cutting edges. I'll explain in a second. And pretty much what we're going to be doing is marking off the parts of the sheet that we need to cut off, so that way we know that one side is going to match to the other whenever we're sticking them together. If we do this right now, there's a very, like, I want to say, without looking at any numbers really, like a 99% chance that you're going to misalign these cards. So what we're trying to do is we're making sure that this print, whatever they are, however you have it sized, that print is going to be one size on all the sheets. But because of how printers work, the paper might be moving back and forth. So we're trying to minimize the amount of aiming that you're going to have to do for this. So I am going to get rid of the tops of all these cards. So I'm marking them with an X. And we need to match the sides that we're going to be cutting off. So that way, if you pick the right side of the cards here, you're going to want to cut the left side of the cards here. So that way that these edges, when you cut them off and you stick them together, they match up perfectly. Okay? So for this step, I'm going to be marking the left side of the cards and the right side of the backs. And I'm just going to do that real quick. Okay, so this is everything marked off, and the next step that we're going to need to do is getting out the cutting board, and we're going to be cutting off the tops and the sides that we marked. So I'm just going to set that up real quick. Yeah. And pretty much what you want to do here is we want to make sure that the cutting that we're doing is uniform. So regardless of how your paper cuts, or how your paper cutter cuts, you want to make sure that it is cutting consistently. And in this case, the way that I have spaced all of my gutters, which is the space between the cards, or even on the borders, I have like this white mark between the two black lines. They pretty much, I'm trying to make sure that I'm having a uniform cut, and I have this this cutting line on my mat. I have actually marked it with a permanent marker, so that way there's a visible black line on here. And the way that I have set up on my side is I am lining up that gutter with that line, and I am trying to make sure that these two lines align. So if I need to cut the outside of a line, which is what I'm trying to do right now, I'll line up one of these lines with one of the other lines, and pretty much however you need to do it, make sure that you are being consistent, and that's pretty much it. We'll come back to this in a second. It's probably going to be a color change here, but yeah, here we go. All right, so here we have everything right now. Have everything set up, and yeah, pre-cut everything, or just finished cutting everything. We're getting to the step that I'm going to need this. I can put everything else away, and I need to get the sticky paper, and the paper parchment. So, parchment paper. So, give me 1 second. The amount that we actually need for this project is just enough to cover most of the sheet, minus like an inch from the bottom. It should be enough. And for this, whenever I'm getting this ready, I try to do like just roll paper the opposite way to keep it from curling in on itself, and try to keep it as flat as possible. It's not curling too much anymore. That's that. So yeah, let's see what the next step is. Okay, what we're going to do is just peel this off, cover up everything except for the tiny bit at the edge. Also, before I mess up anything during this recording, I'm going to move the bits of paper that can get stuck to this. Alright. So here we just have this bottom area uncovered, and we're going to look at which side we want to paste first. In this case, I'm going to put this top edge, whichever side that I cut off completely, unlike this side. This side I'm gonna try to match up to this edge as best as I can. If you stick it down early, it's okay so long as it's just the edge. You want to make sure that this lines up all the way along the side, and then flatten it out across. Because if you only stick this corner right here and you still have everything lifted up, you can still pull away from the sticky sheet without it ripping your paper. So it's still salvageable if you're just messing with this corner. And the way that I do this, I am going to lift this paper, peel this from here, and then I'm going to flatten it with something flat. I would recommend something that is, how do you word this? Something that is firm and flat, but not as sharp as like a ruler, because when you flatten this with a ruler, the ruler like scrapes off some of the ink, and you don't want that to happen. So here we go. I'm taking care to not let this, like any more of this paper touch here. And you always want to, or at least for me, I always want to flatten the paper or whichever side I'm working on onto the sticky sheet. And this is specifically to get rid of any air bubbles that might be in here. From here, I would just do one more cut to get rid of this side of the sticky paper, because it can still stick. So when you flip this over to stick the other side, this is going to get stuck to the table. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm looking for the top because I want to stick this to the top of the sheet. So this side is going to be the one that's uncovered. If you get crinkles on here, that's not a problem. So long as there's no air bubbles in the final part. Right now, this is all going to get peeled off anyway. You're just using this to prevent anything from sticking on beyond this. So I would just double check, make sure that you stuck it to the right side. And we are aligning that sheet to this corner. So peeling this. New side. Going to just gradually put this in, flatten this out. Again, you want to get this as close as possible. And you really want to care about this when you're doing double-sided cards. That's why I decided to show you this half first, to show you all the errors that you might be able to bump into here. But right here, we wanted to make sure that the edge matched. So now we have both sides of everything here. So I'm going to finish cutting this out real quick. This is just going to be the same paper cutter that I was using just to cut them into rows. I'm going to do that in a snap, and then I'm going to cut them into single cards. I'll do that with another snap, and then we'll clean that out. Here are the rows of cards that I'm cutting out, and this is what it looks like when we've cut out all the cards from the sheet. It's not going to really be good, a good tip for you for the double-sided cards, but for any of the one-sided cards, always try to make sure that the front looks good more than, like cut focusing more on the front than you are on the back. So any defects you're not going to see. And the next thing we have to do is cut the edges off of these cards. All right, so the next step is going to be just removing these borders from the cards. So pretty much everything outside of the actual card you just want to cut out. And I'm going to do that very quickly, but carefully. So yeah, you just want to do that for all the cards that you have right now. And this is what it's going to look like. And pretty much that's everything that we need to do before like rounding the edges. We're just cutting off these corners, and you want to focus on the fronts for everything with a back. So if there's like still a little bit of border in the back, again, you're going to be using card sleeves that you can't see through. So I think that the backs of the cards are fine. Um, and even if you're kind of misaligned, like these cards were, because when you flipped it over, or when I flipped it over, you can still see some of the borders. I just cut off the borders after I flipped. So focus on this, take off all the borders on this side, and then if you flip for a double-sided card and you see still some border left, just cut it off, because nothing was really lost when I removed a little bit more from the top for this card. So yeah, that's everything. Next, we're going to be dealing with rounding corners, which is pretty simple. All I have to do is, or all you have to do is grab the card, find the small, there you go, the small slot on this, and then once you do this, you now have a rounded corner. I'm just going to do that for the rest of the cards real quick. And there you have it. So this is how you make cards for just any of your board games. I happen to make them for Marvel Champions, but I'm going to use the same process when I have to start making cards for, what is it, Pendragon? When I have to do Pendragon cards, because I want to do, I want to redo the Feast cards to better like just be focused for my table. But yeah, if you need to make any cards, this would be the whole process. So thank you all for watching. So you can see like the quality is pretty decent. I like how everything looks. It's a little sticky on the sides because of the sticky paper, but as soon as you sleeve all these cards, you're fine. Alright, so if we get like a card for Civil War, I believe, I don't think that's much of a difference on my end. So you can see like straight through this card. I think it's just slightly better, I'm not sure. If it's just because it's going through white, I guess. What is, okay, I think a better one-to-one comparison would be the blue cards, I guess. So this is how much light goes through the custom cards versus oh yeah, okay, I can see why people are complaining about that. So you can see through like the whole thing, and then the custom card, you're seeing the light, but I don't think you're seeing anything through the card. So using this process, you have slightly thicker cards than what they put out officially. I guess that's it. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Have a great night. And as always, stay positive.